What contributed to my downfall in a way is like a deep people pleasing tendency. I'm doing everything right, like I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to be doing. Like, why am I so unfulfilled? I was pushing myself so hard because I was working night shift, usually 12 to 13 hours. And after that 13-hour night shift, I wouldn't sleep and I would go straight to like a meeting and MC it. I remember there was this one event where I was at work and I started feeling like this pain in my back, and then I woke up on the floor. I just eventually got to a point where I was like, I don't care what Buddhism says. I don't care what my leaders say. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I am not doing this anymore. Like, I'm not living my life like this anymore. I'm absolutely miserable. You're okay just as you are. You don't need to impress anyone or be something that you're not. Like, who you are in this moment is enough.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Highest Version Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Philolong, and on this podcast, we talk about falling in love with the process of getting better every day and becoming the highest version of ourselves. Today's guest is Sophia Kawaguchi. I am sincerely convinced there is nothing that can stop my guest from achieving what she wants. I mean, she had a hurricane literally 48 hours before her wedding day. That hurricane took out the lights of her initial venue, and she found a venue 2 days later to be able to put it on in the same week with all her guests there. On top of that, she also has overcome mental health struggles with clinical depression and literally mental exhaustion. A little blast from the past is that she's also an ASMR celebrity. Going by the alias Little Fuji, this is something that I newly discovered and didn't know. And last but not least, she is a natural-born explorer, whether that's a national park or heading overseas. So without further ado, let's welcome my guest, Sophia. Hey, Sophia, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you doing? Thank you for that
I
introduction.
am. I think I was very proud of how smooth I went through because there's a lot of facts in there that I wanted to put in.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, that was awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Especially after we had our last conversation. So now you've like perfected
Yes.
it.
Yes, for context to our viewers, we actually did a recording initially, and unfortunately the audio didn't go through on that one. So we are now here in round two, giving you guys even more insight, and we've grown a lot more in those months since the last time we talked. So,
Yes.
I honestly can't wait to unpack the story again, maybe spark some new curiosities in myself, and just to update it's just to answer your question about how I'm doing right now. Super busy. It's it's really hard to balance a 5 to 9 with my 9 to 5. So trying to really make sure I have fun in my life and balance things because I am so focused on making this podcast and making my brand into the dream that I've always wanted to do. So yeah, I need to take some breathers nowadays.
Yes, no, you're doing amazing. Like every time I see you post on Instagram with your like workout check-ins and your podcast episodes and you still work full time, I'm just like, wow. Like that's so inspiring. Like I told you that like before when I first saw you creating highest version, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like Randy is so cool. Like the fact that you are putting in the work to do it because it's not easy, even though it's like a passion like project of yours, it's a lot of work and you're doing it. So good for you.
Yeah. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Sometimes I just need to remind myself, need to hear those words. I appreciate it so much.
Yes, you are inspiring people out there, like more than you know, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't discredit yourself too. I've seen your couple check-ins here and there. I know you are always day by day working on yourself, regardless what that is. And we talked about it offline before, but you finally finished your part of school that you wanted to. So congratulations to you on that. Now you can
You.
breathe.
Yes, yes. I am doing a lot of breathing, relaxing, having fun. Like I'm just like I am done with with school and assignments and having to like always, be on and study or whatever. So now I'm just like, I'm done with that. I'm ready to just get back to enjoying my life. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Life is about balance, some balance.
exactly. Yes.
All right, Sophia. So before we dive into your story and unpack it, I wanted to get into the featured Funko Pop of the episode. And the Funko Pop I've chosen for you is Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the reason why I picked Katara, and I wish I could do ASMR, but I have only two hands. But I'm for my ASMR people out there. And the reason why I pick Katara is if you guys are familiar with Katara, she is a very resilient character. She does not back down from any obstacles that are in her way, which I literally said in the introduction of how there's nothing that can literally stop you. But also, you are super loyal to your friends and family. And Katara always has Aang's back, who's the main character of that web show series, and yeah, just a very super loyal and resilient character. And I don't think there's any two words best to describe you as a person. So I want to get your thoughts on just how I've been able to, or reflect on how I compare you to Katara.
Yeah, I know. I like when we did the first episode, I was honestly so shocked that you picked Qatar. I was like happy that I actually knew who it was because I was afraid that you were gonna like share something and I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. But I think it's so cool that you picked Katara because I actually did watch that season on Netflix and it really does resonate because like she becomes like the new Avatar, right? And the
Mm,
whole series is her kind of trying to find her way and she's got this huge responsibility now, but she's not really sure like how she is going to make being the avatar her own and like she's making mistakes and trying to do her best and trying to figure out like how to like
mm,
be the best avatar. And so I feel like that her struggle relates a lot to what I feel like I've experienced in my own life. So I was like so
mm.
impressed that you like picked that character because I was like, wow, like I think I mentioned to you before, like I think it speaks to your ability to like, really have a like just a good understanding of people and your in tuneness with who they are as a person. And even though like we kind of don't have like that many experiences together, so it was really cool that you like just picked up on all those little things even in the short times that we have spent together. So yeah, I appreciate that you
Yeah.
picked Katara. I loved her character.
I do
Mhm.
want to clarify something. So
Yeah.
I didn't know Katara would become the next Avatar. And when I think of the next Avatar after Aang, I think it was Korra. So I don't know, are you thinking of Korra or
Or is it? Oh,
Katara or
okay. Well, then maybe I got it wrong. I thought you were talking about Korra this whole time.
no worries, no worries. No, no.
Okay.
It's I mean
This entire
but if you think
time,
about Korra,
yeah, I'm like, oh wait, was because sorry, their names are similar, so I was like,
very
this whole
similar and they're both
yeah,
water tribes. So
okay,
I wanted to clarify just in case just in case. But still, regardless, Katara and Korra have a lot of similarities. So
true,
I don't put it past you that you would also have these same characteristic descriptions with them. So yeah. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, guitar's good too. So
It's all right. We didn't offend any
I was
Avatar fans. We're good. We're good. We're
like, oh
good.
wait, like actually her name is Cora. Now that you just like brought that up, but it's all
All good.
good.
All good. Regardless, you guys both have similarities with resiliency and loyalty. So yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So let's unpack your story. I mean, this is like I said before or offline. This is a very inspiring and interesting story to hear that I think the world needs to hear. Before I get into that, I just want to give context on how I know Sophia and how Sophia knows me. Her husband is my cousin, Paul, and we've only met maybe like a few times. Like you came down to you, well, you were flying into Boston, and I was currently living in Boston. So that way we were
Mm-hmm.
able to, I was able to pick you guys up and then, meet you for the first time. And then you were able to hang out with my family. And then obviously your wedding, that's where we got to dance a little bit. Not as much talking because honestly, I wouldn't want to, disrupt your pathway to figure out such a hectic day. I mean, that is crazy. That is crazy.
Yes, yeah.
All right, so Sophia, let's unpack your story. I think a good start of this would be, when did you start really prioritizing your mental health?
My journey with mental health, there's a kind of a time in my life where I feel like I realized I needed help. So, leading up to that point, there are a couple things that got me, I guess, like starting my journey in mental health. So I started therapy for the first time back in 2016. Yeah, around 2016, I think, was the first time that I had gone to therapy. And pretty much leading up to that, I had never done therapy before. I didn't really know much about it, I guess. I didn't really
Mm,
know how it worked. And so my journey started with that. So leading up to that moment, I had graduated college. So I went to nursing school to become a nurse. And then uh, at that time, I was working a really stressful job. And so I was working night shift in a hospital. And just that in and of itself was really challenging. And being a nurse too, I think, there's a lot that goes into it. It's a really difficult to get through nursing school. And
oh yeah.
when I finally became a nurse and I started working as a nurse, I started questioning myself. And so that I think started giving me a lot of anxiety because I was like, I just chose this path and I worked so hard to get here. I invested so much money, so much time, and I knew that something didn't feel right, I guess. I mean, I was so young at that time, so I really didn't know
Oh
what
yeah.
to expect, and so I that was kind of the first like sign, right? Where I was like, okay, did I choose the right path? Oh my gosh, like if it's not the right path, then what am I going to do? Like should I go back to
Mm,
school? Should I like start over? And then on top of like dealing with all of that, I was also in a leadership responsibility within my faith organization. And so
mm,
at that time, like so much of my life was just consumed by work and that leadership responsibility. And so I was also like really pushing myself to great lengths to fulfill all of my responsibilities within that leadership role. And then at the same time, I was really like struggling with my path in life and if I chose the right
mm,
thing. And ultimately, it just got to a point where like I knew that I was really unhappy and feeling unfulfilled, and I didn't understand why. And so
mm.
those were some of the things that I was dealing with leading up to when I finally decided to get help and go to therapy. So it was a combination of a lot of different things, but that's ultimately what led me to realizing I needed help to figure
Mhm.
out what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on those 2 points there, that deciding a career for something for the rest of your life is really hard. There's a lot of weight to it, and especially growing up in, I feel like in this generation or growing up even, I don't know, I feel like in both of our generations, it's really looked
Hmm.
down upon to have to change your major during school because
Right?
obviously there's opportunity costs to that, right? It's like the good thing is you're gonna find something that maybe you are more in tune with or that you like a lot more. The other side of it is that could mean money, right? If you're not gonna pick something that's in the same field and you don't want to do that as a burden, especially if you're paying for your own school or your parents are paying for your own school. I mean, I had to really pick a major by the age of 8, and that was hard for me because I
Eight
was eight
years
years
old.
old.
Oh my God. That's insane.
Like don't I was literally forced to figure it out because I literally like every time I think about it, I was like, why did I choose? Why was I 8 years old? Like I took like those quizzes where like it tries to figure out like what major you're gonna be in college. Yeah, I took like maybe 20 of those quizzes at 8.
That
So
is crazy. Like I thought you were gonna say 18. And you
no,
said
no,
8.
no.
Like what the heck? Yeah,
I
you're
literally
like,
walked into high school knowing what like our extracurricular class and stuff like that. I knew
mm-hmm.
I had to pick business classes to fulfill an accounting degree by the end of it. And yeah, anyways, on that side tangent, but like I think a lot of us can resonate with how much pressure there is with picking your career for the rest of your life. And if
Mm-hmm.
say that doesn't work, then you kind of get behind other people in life, and that's even more anxiety because we how can you not compare yourself to other your peers when you guys are all coming up at the same time? And a lot of people don't want
Mm-hmm.
to not keep up with their peers, which is really hard. So I can understand just like the struggle and the pressure of you figuring out what you want to do for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
The second part of
Yeah.
that is talking offline. Like I know how much faith means to you. Can we kind of dive in or touch upon a little context on, what faith means to you and why that's such a big part of your identity?
Yeah. So I am Buddhist. So I grew up practicing Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism is the kind of Buddhism that I practice, um, and it's within an organization called SGI, and it stands for Soka Gakkai International. And so, from as long as I can remember, both of my parents practiced Buddhism. So I was always growing up in the environment surrounded by my faith organization. Both of my parents were faith leaders. So I was always surrounded by it growing up. And I really attribute a lot of my values and the things that have molded me as a person to the Buddhist environment that I grew up in, like in the organization. And I think it really instilled a lot of my own like life philosophy, how I view life and how I
Mm-hmm.
navigate my struggles and certain situations. So, I think a lot of people grow up in a household and their parents have like a certain religion that they practice, and you know we tend to just kind of go along with whatever our parents are doing.
Right.
And I think for me though, I eventually, like, it was like that at first, but eventually it did become something of my own. It was something that I sought out for myself and really wanted to understand for myself, and started developing like my own Buddhist practice, like a daily practice. So, it really became something that was like the foundation for my life. And
Yeah.
kind of to piggyback on the question that you asked me, like leading up to my journey in mental health, because it was something I was really, really passionate about, like my faith from a young age. I mean, not that young, but like from the time that I was like 18 to 24, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
because it was something I was so passionate about. Like I always sought out like leadership roles, and just was very active. I always wanted to be a part of the organization. I wanted to contribute something. I wanted to have opportunities to like learn and grow within my faith. And so I always sought those things out, from the time that I was 18 to 24. But like the downside of that is I it became such a huge part of my identity that I feel like at some point I kind of didn't know who I was outside of being like a faith leader or like a leader within my faith organization because it took up so much of my life. And,
Right.
things are different now. I've kind of stepped back a little bit from doing those kinds of things, but Buddhism still always like remains like the foundation. It's still something that I feel like is very much a part of me and my values. But yeah, so that's a huge part of why it's important to me. But on the other flip side of that, it was also had a unique role in my mental health journey too.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
let's talk about that a little bit more because you, especially when we're 18, like this is where like we're developing, we're figuring ourselves out, and it kind of seems like you had already a great idea of who you were, which is great, but that thing that you were really resonating with was actually hindering with your mental health. And yeah,
Hmm.
let's dive deeper on just how much like what was just going on at the time with balancing, obviously with school and religion at between 18 and 24.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, another element again, like I was so young at that time, so I just was not aware of this, but I think a huge part of it, of what contributed to my downfall in a way, is like a deep people pleasing tendency.
Mm,
I at the time, like I was seeking it out because it was something that I genuinely wanted. I wanted to do it. I thought, I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being true to myself. And, in some ways I was, because I really did genuinely enjoy it.
mm,
But where I think maybe I got a bit lost was that I was trying so hard to make everyone happy. And you eventually get to a certain point where, especially in a leadership role, you start to understand that there are certain things that are expected of you, you know, and you feel like a huge responsibility. At least for me, I felt like a sense of responsibility to be an example.
mm,
And so, you know, I went through life like this for, that chunk of time, because it just unaware that it was coming from like a deep need to please everyone. And so when you
mm.
do that for so long, it eventually, weighs on your mental health, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's where things kind of started to have like a negative impact on me. It's not necessarily like, the religion aspect of it, or like, I still loved
Right.
Buddhism and still like definitely resonate with a lot of the values, but me being so young and not having, I was still developing as a person, so I didn't really know
Hmm.
what my boundaries were or what my needs were. I was just saying yes, and I was doing all these things because I felt like it's what I should do and what I needed to do. And so it just got really confusing after a while when I was so unhappy, because I was just like,
Mm,
I I I'm doing everything right. Like I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm really, dedicating myself to my faith. I'm, doing everything I'm supposed to do. Like why am I so unfulfilled? Or
yeah.
like feeling so miserable. And so that's
Mm,
where, yeah, like that's kind of how the faith aspect of things started to, you know, play into like my mental health. And I think I mentioned to you before too that the biggest thing that happened was how it was like it really started to show up in my body. Like even if I, didn't care and was like, what, I'm just gonna push through no matter what, whatever. It like
yeah.
the signs really started showing up in my body too. And so that's when I was like, okay, even if I wanted to keep going, I can't
Yeah.
because something's not right. I can tell that
Mm,
like something is off, and, I really started to suffer physically. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
Did anybody in your community ever like comment like, "Hey, you look like super tired. Like, are you okay?" Or was it not like something that people really brought up?
Yeah, that's something that I always look back on. And, like, maybe you can share your perspective with me too, because one of the things that happened that prompted me, like, this was the biggest thing that prompted me basically to go get therapy, which was one time I was working night shift and I was pushing myself so hard because I was working night shift, usually 12 to 13 hours. And then anytime I wasn't working, I was like doing tons of stuff for like my leadership responsibility. And sometimes I would, do really extreme things, kind of like I would work a 13-hour night shift. And after that 13-hour night shift, I wouldn't sleep and I would go straight to like a meeting and MC it, or like, I was responsible
Oh,
for like facilitating some kind of meeting and having to push myself, and be on and all these things. And then I would like crash out afterwards. And so, like, being under that kind of stress, I remember there was this one event where I was at work and I started feeling like some kind of pain in my body. And I thought it was
mm,
really strange. And so I went to the bathroom and like I started feeling like this pain in my back. And then I like woke up on the floor. And I didn't know, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like I just passed out. Like, what happened? What is
mm-hmm.
going on? And
Jeez, yeah.
I went to the doctor and like ultimately they kind of just chalked it up to like, I think you're under too much stress right now. And so that's what made me realize like, okay, you know, something is not right. And I remember sharing this with people in my faith organization, and nobody, like, it was kind of like this, like, they're like, oh, you know, we're worried about you. Like, that's not good. Okay, we have this meeting tomorrow. Like, are you going to do XYZ? Like,
Mm,
that kind of thing. And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
I don't know, like sometimes I feel like a part of why that experience was painful for me is because it, not that I blame anyone necessarily. I know a big part of it was me
Right.
like not having boundaries and stuff like that, but nobody
Mm-hmm.
was gonna say anything. Everybody, like people will be willing to take as much as you're willing to give them. Like if you don't have any boundaries or if you never say no, like people are going to keep taking as much as they can get,
Right.
until you are not able to give anything anymore. And I feel like that's kind of what happened to me. And not that I really blame anyone or like blame the organization, but I look back on that and sometimes I used to feel like, why did nobody protect me? Like, why did nobody
Yeah.
really, like, I was pushing myself so hard, but I thought like that was the right thing to do and it's what they wanted me to do. And that's what I felt like I
Mm,
had to do to fulfill my responsibility. But nobody was going to say, stop doing it because they're benefiting from it, right? So,
right.
yeah, I think,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're
yeah.
spot on with that. It's just like, oh, like they wanted to exhaust the amount of benefits from what you're doing because you are such a, a very competent and capable leader and like, it's tough. It's definitely a tough thing to say or hear that when you look at the things at a very universal galaxy, kind of perspective,
Hmm.
it's like life will continue to go on regardless of what you're going through and what your problems are, right? And I
Hmm.
feel like that is a very harsh way of putting ourselves back into reality. But for people to that are supposed to be part of your community, right, to support you, it's also their job if they do care and they do want to support you, then part of it is pushing you to also taking care of yourself. So I think at that moment when you kind of shown these signs or express like, hey, maybe I'm tired, or expressing like your concerns about your health, and for them to say like, hey, I know you passed out, but can you still do X, Y, and Z? Like it's like Are they
Mm-hmm.
really there for you as part of a community member, or are they there for the organization, right?
Right,
So I
like
think
what
in
I
that
can do
circumstance,
for
it's
them. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I think they were there for the organization, and they were more fearful about the upcoming events versus like how you are as a person. And we are just going to run into those type of people, and that is the unfortunate thing, but it also lights a bulb in ourself of like, hey, like, those people may not be the ones that we want to keep close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you kind of just touch base on a lot of things where there's that mind body connection. We, as I think, Asian Americans, that have immigrant parents, or have are in that kind of culture, that kind of immigrant culture, it's always push past pain, because if you push past pain, then you're going to get beyond other people in life, when that's not really true, I guess. I mean, there is pushing your limits, but I think there is a world where you can push past your limits but understand what you need to recover at the end of the day. I think a past guest of mine said, like, he actually has a unpopular opinion about burnout, where he's like, honestly, like, maybe burning yourself out is a good thing, because it allows you to know where your limits are. So that way, next time you're like, okay, this is where I stop. I don't need to go anymore. I don't need to go any further. And
Mm-hmm.
that really hit me in a different light, because I was saying like how much I've been burning out with trying to balance everything in my life. Passing out, though, that is for sure, like, you need to stop. Like, you need to give yourself some sleep, some hours, for you to be 100% you.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I think you also touched upon like about how making everyone happy and what you should be doing. I think what your situation, what your story is saying is sometimes doing things that are quote unquote right may not be what's best for you. And that sucks for us as people in our own thinking, because what we think is right is what's best for us, right? Like, that's what we initially think. But at the end of the day, when we reflect, if we constantly reflect with ourselves, we understand what actually is best for us versus what is right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when I'm saying what is what is right for everyone but yourself. And it's a very hard thing to balance, because I know in my situation, I know what's right is to put out a video every week. Is that best for me? I have that goal, but there may be some times there was a month at a time where I was dealing with family struggles, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that capacity to put out things every week. I tried to, but I knew that if I were to continue with that, it wouldn't be exactly the thing that was best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I know I kind of spewed a lot there, but I think to kind of sum all of what I was saying was,
Yeah.
making everyone happy isn't necessarily what's best for your mental health. And at the end of the day, you are gonna have to let down some people, and it's a very hard thing to do, especially for me and you who are people pleasers. We love when people are happy because of some things that we did, right? Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
like our biggest joy in that. But at the end of the day, we have to be like, okay, I did that. How do I feel afterwards? Do I feel like I can continue on? Like, I took care of myself and I got the mission done, or did I jeopardize myself for the mission? And that's kind of the conversation that you have to have with yourself. And then B is, what's right, what the thing that is done, the thing that is quote unquote right to do may not be what's best for you. So
Right.
yeah,
That is so
yeah,
true. It's impossible to make everyone happy. It is literally
yeah,
impossible. Like you just have to let go that's even attainable. And I think like especially for like since I know you and like myself kind of have that tendency to want to people please and things like that. But I think when you really think about like that analogy that they use on like the airplane, like you have to put your own oxygen mask on before you can
yeah,
put someone else's on. And at the end of the day, like understanding that us taking care of ourselves, us doing the things that we have to do to meet our own needs and to make sure that we're showing up as like the absolute like best versions of ourselves that we can be, you like you are not going to be able to do that if you're trying to make everyone happy. And ultimately, like, it's everybody else is going to win when you're winning. Like
Yeah.
if you're
Damn
running
straight.
yourself into the ground, you know, you're ultimately not going to be able to accomplish like the things that you really want to do, and
Mm.
having the kind of impact on the people that you love and the people that you want to, support and things like that. So definitely has to be
Yeah.
like a balance of both. It's like if I want to have the greatest impact and support the people that I love and the things that I want to do to my, greatest capacity, like it is a non-negotiable to do the things that I have to do to take care of myself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Yeah.
knowing that me doing that is connected to that goal, you know.
Yeah. And at such a
Mm-hmm.
young age, like I think at a young age, we give our power a lot to other people because we don't know what we're doing. So we are
I
following
guess.
with like what other people around us are doing, giving them the power. And then when we're kind of 18, that time around when we're figuring things out, we start to take a little bit of that back. But yeah, I mean, at
Yes.
that time that you were going through, it's like all your power in reality was to school and to your org. And I just want
Mm-hmm.
to point out, like you said, like it wasn't the faith itself that was creating these, mental health struggles. It was your people pleasing and your tendencies and your behavior to give yourself to an organization and not the faith that they were presenting at that time. So I just
Right.
also want to reemphasize that for our audience, but also like we,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that I know faith at the end of the day is a very beautiful thing, and I don't want that to be construed in a bad way in this, in this situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And just wanted to add one thought on that really quick because I think what I've learned
Yeah.
over time too is that like regardless, like organized religion in general, like as an organization, they're a gathering of human beings, So the same kind of tendencies that you see out in the world in any organization, like every organization, like in terms of faith or religion, has some elements of those things, like everybody is vulnerable to their own like human nature. And so I don't think that because, like again, I some like struggled a bit with like looking back on like, oh, why did nobody protect me? Like, why did nobody like say anything really, or it didn't I didn't
Mm,
feel like my health and well-being was the concern kind of or prioritized in that during that time, but I don't see that as a reflection of the faith, I
yeah.
see that as a reflection of human beings being human beings, and
Mm,
we all have that and are like dealing with that. So, yeah.
yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to put it. And the other thing that when we were talking about, giving yourself at your greatest capacity, you can only do it when, you are at 100%. But also, like, what I said about, doing what's right may not be what's best for you. I mean, we need to win too in life. And I don't think that's something that both of us knew. We felt like we were winning, but at the end of the day, we actually weren't winning at the time.
No, no.
So I mean, this next
Yeah.
question may segue into the next part of, that this journey that we're talking about. But when did you start taking your power back? When did you start being like, hey, like, okay, I've passed out. I know this is a very serious event. Let me figure myself out because this is a very shocking thing to go through.
Yes, I love this question. So like you said, I think again just to like with that whole experience, like you said, like you're not really operating from a place of your own power because you're giving it away to so many things. And I like 100% resonate with that because I feel like at such a young age, like you just think that other people know better than you. You're like, well, they have all this experience and like they're not that you can't like learn from other people's wisdom, obviously you can, but I
Mm,
just, even when I kind of felt like maybe something wasn't right, I dismissed it because I was like, well, they probably know better than me because like I don't know what
mm,
I'm doing. So yeah.
yeah.
And but to answer your question, like what ended up ultimately happening, so like the whole passing out thing happened, and like I just got to a place where I was so miserable, and I, again, like I felt like my physical health was deteriorating, my mental health was deteriorating. I was not able to do simple tasks. Like I felt like getting out of bed was really difficult. Like I did not
Oof.
want to be around people. I felt like I couldn't
Mm,
have social interactions anymore. I couldn't like go to the grocery store. Like, just normal simple tasks felt like so enormous, and that was really unlike myself. And so
yeah.
I had decided to step down from that leadership role, which sounds like a simple thing, but for me, like it made a huge impact. Like it was, that was like my first step in taking my power back because I felt like nobody was gonna say, like, oh, you should step down. And I felt like
Yeah.
I was almost waiting for permission from somebody. Like I wanted to hear it from someone to tell me that it was okay, but nobody was going to do
Mm,
it. Like, and nobody ever did. And I had to give myself permission to be like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just was, at that time, I was so confused and just like could not understand like why all this was happening. And,
yeah.
I just eventually got to a point where I was like, I don't care what Buddhism says. I don't care what my leaders say. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I am not doing this anymore. Like, I'm not living my life like this anymore. I'm absolutely miserable. I can't do this. And so that was like my first step, even though it was
Mm,
really kind of painful in a way because, like we talked about
of course.
before, I just felt like I was letting everyone down. I did something that I thought I would never do because I was so just like, I will never give up, like that kind of mentality. But what I didn't see at the time is that like me stepping down wasn't me giving up, and
Mm,
it was me, obviously doing something that I needed to do to take care of myself. And
mm,
it took time for me to like see it in that way, but at first I felt like it kind of shattered a piece of my identity because, like I said, I
oh
identified
yeah.
so strongly with that aspect of my life. And so once that was gone, it kind of was like I am so confused. I don't know who I am. I don't know what's you know going on. And long story short, like that was the first step, and then that led to me deciding to quit my job, and I did a 1 year program in Japan at Soka University. And
Mm-hmm.
I always look back on that time in my life as like one of the happiest times in my life because I felt like I was finally getting to do something that I wanted to do. Like I chose this for myself. Like I researched it and decided on my own that this is what I was going to do. And so to me it, yeah, like it, just looking back on that really represented that like time in my life where I felt like I was finally starting to take my power back and not doing things for the sake of like what I thought people doing things for the sake of like fulfilling the expectations that I thought people had of me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
that's
know. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead. I was just gonna say that kind of marks the time where I felt like I was really starting to take my power back as a
Mm-hmm.
person.
Yeah, and finding who you truly are. And I'm just
Hmm.
curious, like, how long did it take for you to step down? Because I know that probably wasn't like, you walking in the next day and being like, yeah, I'm done. I can only imagine it probably took like maybe weeks, at least days.
Yeah, no, it definitely, like, I still pushed myself even after the passing out incident for several months, probably. I was in
Months,
that
wow.
yeah, I was in that leadership role for almost a year. And so I passed out maybe like a couple months before I decided to step down. So it took a
Wow.
while. Yeah. And even I know it kind of sounded like one thing after the other when I just explained it, but even with the whole Japan thing and quitting my job, that was like I had made the decision to go to Japan and then worked for one more almost another year after that to save up money to go and then quit my job. So it wasn't
Mm.
like I'm gonna quit my job and
Yeah,
I start
yeah.
like it wasn't like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was a
Everything on a
process.
whim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you thought about it thoroughly versus, just
Yes.
putting yourself in that situation. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I, I mean, there's such a mental battle with obviously stepping down because like you said, it was hard for you to give up a part of your personality. And
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure you didn't get the best feedback about you stepping down either, which doesn't make it any easier to go through, right? It's kind of a sense of loss in a way.
Mm.
And when you were describing those physical things that you were going through when you were going through
Hmm.
depression and that moment you were, feel like you couldn't get out of bed and like I I've had that experience too. Like I've been curled in a
Mm.
ball and I want to move, but my body's not allowing me to.
Mm.
And it's a scary feeling. And I'm so happy that you pushed yourself to really take yourself out of the situation and do at the end of the day like do something that's for you because you've been doing something so long that's for other people. And
Hmm.
I know you became a nurse to for service and you want to service other people. And I think there's this thing with service where yes, I think at the end of the day we all have some kind of service purpose, whether that's on a macro level or a micro level. But
Hmm.
sometimes that line of service could be crossed in the ways like you said where you are serving so much that you are putting yourself to exhaustion. And there's another service in life that we have to do, and that's the service to ourselves.
Mm.
And you going to Japan really is like this pivotal moment in your life. And I couldn't be happier that you, whether it was a higher power or whether it was you in your head talking to yourself to really push yourself to that,
Mm.
like I'm just really proud to hear and happy to hear that that was one of the first instincts that you did
Yeah.
with
Thank you.
Japan. How what were the things that you were doing to find yourself? Obviously you were going into a country that didn't speak one of the languages you're familiar with, so there's a whirlwind of things here. Like did you ever
Hmm.
think about cutting your trip short, or yeah, just any struggles being in Japan and trying to find yourself in this journey?
Yeah. No, and like I just like we've talked about before, like my journey was like up and down, up and down, up and down, up and
Yeah.
down throughout the whole way through. Like so, you know, me going to Japan, like it sounds so awesome. You're like, wow, like you're gonna quit your job and like you're gonna move to Japan and do this. That's amazing. But
Mhm.
it was so hard at first. I actually, when I first got there, because of all the things you mentioned, like the culture shock, I could not speak the
Mhm.
language. I didn't know anyone. I was like really like shocking myself into this completely new environment and like, you know, trying to figure things out. I was kind of fell back into a depression a little bit when I first got there because it was just such a huge drastic change and I was almost like regretting it at first. I was like, what did I just do? Like, is this bad? Like, did I just make a big mistake? Like
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
questioning at first because I was like, why did I do this to myself? Like, this is so hard, you know?
Mm.
And so, like, there was a little bit of that at first, but as I started to get more acclimated and just kind of understand how, Japan life works and getting more accustomed to the culture and starting to like learn the language more, I eventually got to a point where I felt like I was starting to open up more and have more of an open heart, and I was trying to like put myself out there a little bit to make some friends.
Yeah.
That's when things did start to turn around for me a little more. So yes, there like, there was all of that at the beginning, but the main things that I really did to try to get the most out of the experience was like, okay, you know, I want to, make new friends. So I really wanted to connect
Yeah.
with people and their stories, and I was like, I'm going to read books. And then I wanted to, like, challenged myself, like, from a faith aspect too, just in terms of like praying. So, as a
Mm.
part of our Buddhist faith, like, one of the things we do to pray is we chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And so, I had challenged myself to like pray for a certain amount of time every day towards these goals. Like, essentially, my goal was to rediscover like my purpose in life, And so I was just like really
Yeah.
chanting and praying on that. And, I wanted to keep the things simple. So I was like, getting to meet people and their stories and like reading things that I'm genuinely curious about, I think would be a good way for me to at least have a starting point to start to try to figure myself out a little more. And so
Hmm.
those are the things I did when I, moved to Japan and was trying to figure things out for myself to get over
Yeah.
the all the struggles. So,
Right. Right. I mean, you putting yourself in a very interesting situation because if anyone that's gone through mental health struggles and all that stuff, I don't think any of us would have thought to go off to Japan. Like, I think a lot of us be like, all right, either like just going home and like being in, I mean, obviously you put yourself in a new environment, but going to a totally different country, that's like, whoo,
yeah.
that's like, that is outside of the box thinking. Let me tell you that.
I know. I don't know. Like, for some reason at that time when I discovered, because I was like, remember thinking like, I knew that I was unhappy in nursing, and then I was like going through all the stuff with my leadership stuff. And I knew that I needed to make a change, but I didn't know like what or what my
Yeah.
next step should be. And then when I had found out about this program at Soki University in Japan, like, I don't know, it was like you have those moments and like something just clicked inside of me. I was like, that is it. That is my next step. This is what I'm gonna do. Like, I don't know. For some reason, I was just like, yes, that's it.
Mm,
Like, for it just had that kind of like, I don't know, it resonated with me, and just I felt this
yeah.
like physical feeling of like, okay, this is feels right. Like, I'm this is what I'm gonna do. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, when you have a gravitational pull like that, like you gotta listen to it. You know, there's the reason why it's screaming at you so loud, you know, to do
Yes.
all those things.
Mm-hmm.
With obviously, I think not only in America, but I think in the world, it's very hard for you to just put yourself out there, right? And I'm just curious, like how, like what was the thing that you did to kind of meet these people and listen to their stories? Like, how did you just put yourself out there, especially when there's so much anxieties and nervousness with that?
Right. Yeah. I think, you know, up until Japan, I felt like I was operating from a place of like, you know, expectation. I felt like I was always needing to be a certain kind of way. And when I went to Japan, I felt like I finally had the freedom to just be myself, not really worry about like a certain responsibility that I had to fulfill, because like I
Mm,
said, like up until the time I was 18, all the way till 24, I had some sort of leadership responsibility and I was in school and I was not having any fun or any opportunity to really get to know myself or what I even liked. And so
yeah.
when I like made it to Japan, I knew that like I really, by that time I felt like I had a little more maturity, and because of that, I think it gave me a little more confidence to be more, I guess, kind of strategic about like, how do I want to make the most of this experience? I only have 1 year here. So, what am I going to do to really make this like the most enriching experience that I can? And so, one of the cool things about Soka University is that it's an international school. So,
Mm,
I was going to school with like all these other students from like I think it's like I can't remember the exact number, but like over like 30 plus different countries from around the world. And so
mm.
I just thought that that was so cool that like, I
Yeah.
have this opportunity to meet all these people from different walks of life and different parts of the world. And so that gave me the idea to be like, I really want to get to know these people's stories or like learn something from them. And so anytime I met somebody that I thought was interesting, or, like you said, you kind of just get that gravitational pull of like, ooh, I have a curiosity about this person.
Mm,
And, you know, I was like, anybody that I come across that I get that feeling with, I'm gonna ask them to meet up and see if they'd be willing to share their story with me. And it was so well received. Like, I don't think anybody ever said no when I had
yeah.
asked. And so I'm like so happy that I did that, when I was there because it was so enriching. I felt like I learned so much. It was so inspiring to be able to like connect with people in that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you kind of put yourself in a very interesting environment like that, like it's kind of a, I don't think the right word is disrespect. I think it would be a disservice to yourself to not get that kind of experience, to talk to other people from other parts of the world and, why are they here? Because obviously
Hmm.
you have a great story of why you're there. So there's, that's kind of just kind of that back and forth of
Hmm.
something that may help you when you kind of go back to the States, right? When your whole journey of that is done.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
something that's interesting that you said is that what made you able to open up is that you didn't have any leadership abilities. And the word that really jumped out to me was that you're saying, oh, I could be myself.
Hmm.
And the reason why it jumped out to me is because at this time, you really didn't know who you were at the time.
Yeah.
So how, like, did you just go in like, hey, I'm a totally new person. I don't have, not that you don't have any morals or values, but like any activities that I resonate with or like things I like that's out the window. It's more of like, okay, this is a new me. I'm just gonna be like a child again and be like, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's cool. Like, yeah, talk to me
Yeah.
about how like, what you were going in with that mindset of
Yeah.
being yourself when it was a very confusing time for that kind of or confusing on what your identity was at the time.
Right. Yeah. Um, I think kind of similar to what you said, when you have a responsibility, I don't know, at least for me, I felt like there's some level of like performance kind of, like I know that I have
Mm,
to kind of
mm,
be on my game and I was in a position where I felt like, I needed to be an example, right? And so in
right.
some ways you feel kind of like you can't just be free to be yourself or to be imperfect or I know that like it's impossible, like I know that I wasn't perfect or that people make mistakes and things like that and that's normal, but because I felt like a sense of responsibility to be an example and to be a leader in that sense, I always just had this sense of like I can't truly like let my guard down, I guess, or fully be my full imperfect self, you know?
Gotcha. Yep.
And so when I was going to Japan, even though I was still a little bit confused about my identity and like what I wanted to do and where this was even going to take me or what I wanted to do after, I felt like I finally had the freedom to just follow my genuine curiosity and just focus on that. You know, like any,
Mm,
like you said, like I just kind of was allowed myself to be like, oh, I want to do this, and this seems kind of interesting. So I allow myself to go do that, and I had time to do it. That's the thing.
mhm.
Like before,
Yeah.
like so much of my life was taken up by work and then all the things that I had to do to fulfill my leadership responsibilities. So I really had no time to just rest and just like follow my own like genuine curiosities about things. So, going to
Mm,
Japan, I had the time to do it. I didn't have any like responsibility that was weighing on me to have to get certain things done. Like everything that I did was because I genuinely wanted to do it. And so
yeah.
it was so nice to connect with that part of myself because if you're just so busy all the time, you
Hmm.
really kind of lose touch with that. You end up not really getting to know what your yourself anymore, like what you even like or what you have curiosity towards anymore. And so I think that's kind of how I approached it. Was just like I'm just going to allow myself to follow, like practice the skill of following like my own voice, practicing the
Hmm.
skill of like whatever it is that I feel like interests me. Like I will give myself permission to do that and have no judgment towards it and just see where it leads me. So,
Yeah.
I think that was super helpful to give myself
Yeah.
time to do that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
In my head, I'm just like, hell yeah, yeah. You go get it. You do all those things. That's what my when you were talking, that was going on in my head. Because you should
Yes.
like, especially,
Hmm.
I feel like we always, when it comes to purpose and self, right? It changes. I feel like it changes so often. Like we change as
God, yeah.
people like almost every day, and like we don't. I feel like if we have a rigid sense of who we are, like
Yeah.
it actually is not going to help us because like we are shying away from opportunities of where we could, like something else that our initial sense of identity doesn't agree with. You know what I mean? Like it's just like we should be able to open ourselves to try new things and things outside of quote unquote what we think ourself is. And, even bring it to a bigger and grateful and appreciative scale, like for us to be able to say those things is also a privilege too, right? And in life, we only have one life to live, and it's like we should be taking advantage of any privileges and opportunities that we have in our life. So, yeah, hell yeah, like that was I don't know, it's just a dope thing to hear for you to let your leadership hat fall and just be a learner of life and that whole journey. So, yeah, major
Yes.
major props to you in that sense.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot that we've gone through. I know this is even, you know, part of the full story, but I wanted to really take some time here to really reflect and get your perspective of your reflections, maybe like three reflections of just that entire part of your life. Like, what are three things that you either learned or that you think some words that can help someone that maybe has gone through like or is going through something similar as your journey or in the same kind of topics aspect.
I think one thing for sure is in terms of like the people pleasing, like really getting comfortable with like being okay with knowing that people are not going to be happy when they don't get their needs met. And what I mean by that is that like so for example, if you want to live your life in a way where you obviously for me, like I want to be supportive of the people that I love and I want to like, make a contribution in my own way. But now I know that it is not healthy to do that at my own expense, right? And I still struggle sometimes with the tendency to really push myself to great lengths or push past my limits for the sake of like meeting the needs of others. But
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing for me is knowing that like if I'm going to stand up for my own needs, like if I'm going to allow myself to have needs and advocate for them, that also means that there are going to be times when people might not get their needs met and they might not be happy about that and that's okay. That
Yeah.
like sitting with that discomfort and knowing that like it is worth it if it means doing what you need to do to care for yourself.
Hmm.
And then the second thing would be being intentional about checking in with yourself. Like I mentioned, I feel like my life was so busy during that time, and even still, like, like I mentioned, I had been in school and I had the wedding last year and all of that. Like, your life can just become so busy, and you can have a million reasons why you don't have time to check in with
Hmm.
yourself. But what ends up happening is that you become like so disconnected from yourself that you don't even know like what direction you're going in anymore. And
Yeah.
even if it's just like 5 minutes, like try like, maybe waking up like 5 minutes earlier just to like maybe journal a little or pray or whatever it is that you do to check in with yourself. Like it is vital. Like it's just as important as, feeding yourself, brushing your teeth. Like you have to kind of prioritize that as like an essential need. At least for
Hmm.
me, I feel like that's like my view on it because at least for me, if I am allow myself to become so disconnected from myself, I end up feeling so lost and like I'm not really moving from a place of like the most authentic version of myself. I guess the last thing would be like just allowing myself to do things, like allowing myself to be imperfect, allowing myself to like make mistakes and not be so harsh on myself when the mistakes happen and like really practicing that like self-compassion
Hmm.
because I feel like me getting so anxious about like wanting to do things in the right way has really held me back a lot, and sometimes you just need to like really like practice that compassion muscle for yourself to know that
Yeah.
like it's okay. Like
Yeah.
you're more better off like doing things and making mistakes and giving yourself grace and compassion even if things don't turn out good or, you really get up or whatever, and like moving
Hmm.
through that and being like, it's going to be okay. So, yeah. That's just off the top of my head what I can think of, I guess.
I mean, those are
Yeah.
three amazing things to kind of put in a reflection and great lessons to be learned from your story. Like I think out of those three, the last one hit me hard because I've built my brain to work on things to be so perfect. And
Mm,
it's hard because I know that I quote unquote fail at things almost nearly every single day because I'm not gonna get at my 9 to 5 job, I'm not gonna get like a work file correct all the way. Like there may be some things that need to tweak, like even a little tweak. Conversations with my partner or how like with chores around the house, like I may not be doing up to her
mm,
expectations. She may not doing things up to my expectations. Like
mm,
I think the reason why it hurts, not hurts, but like it has such an impact on me is because I strive to be this perfect person, and maybe I just value myself too much on being perfect in my relationship and my friendships, because that's what I felt people found my self-worth in.
Mm,
And I think now I just really have to think about how to let that go in terms of being imperfect and okay with being that, and really taking that into my day-to-day activities of, hey man, like it's, you can let go of being perfect now. Like it's, you're not in a situation environment anymore where you have to feel that way.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I just really had to sit with that one because of how much that really speaks to me in that sense. So I'm glad you chose that to be one of the three reflections on your life.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I feel that, yeah. I mean, honestly, though, like I've told you this before, like, I know that you said that that's something that you struggle with, but like that tendency in me still holds me back. Like, even though it's something that I've learned, it's still something that, like, you
Hmm.
know, kind of holds me back from like doing some of the things that I know I want to do because I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I research this and I'm prepared, and, all this
Yeah.
stuff. But like the fact that you're doing your podcast thing, like, you're creating this brand around highest version, like, I think it's so cool because I feel like, at different points in my life, like I've wanted to do something like that, but have been like afraid that, you know, that I might say the wrong thing or that like I won't do it in the right
Mm.
way or just like, all these things that kind of come in the way that stop me from doing it. And, you're out here doing it. And I'm just like, that's amazing,
Thank you. I appreciate
So,
that. But I think it goes to your second, or your that point of like just do it. Like, get out content,
hmm
get out anything, because, I think someone said to me before, slow progression is better than no progression. Slow motion is better than no motion. So,
hmm
yeah, yeah. And I just had a thought about where I was like, oh, this makes me feel like I want to throw my mic across the room, and I totally forgot what it is. I think it's like, it's like, I'm glad that I had this tendency to be perfect at a young age, because it's chosen me what work ethic and like kind of quality standpoint. But the other part that makes me want to throw it across the room is because it comes at the expense of my mental health and stuff. So like, it's
mm
like that. It's like you finding, again, I think we talk a lot about balance in this and
Yeah.
trying to find that. And yeah, I feel like that's a thought that a lot of perfectionists have, because it's like, oh, I'm so grateful that I have it. It just sucks sometimes when I have to focus on it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I totally like resonate with that too because like yeah, in some aspects I'm like, yeah, I'm grateful that I have that quality because it helped me to, produce a lot of great things or like accomplish a lot of stuff, but when it goes too overboard, then you're doing it at the expense of your own mental health. And that's where it's like, and it's like same thing, like growing your muscles in the gym, like it's a muscle you have to flex and practice, that
Mm,
like giving yourself grace and not like tearing yourself apart every time,
right.
you realize like you've something up and you're like, oh, but it
Yeah.
happens. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I think obviously your story has been inspiring, and a lot that we can learn from. I think what I want to do now is to kind of wrap things up and just say thank you so much for doing this. I want to say thank you again for your time and to speak on your story again, and something that is really resonated with me, and like just finding those similarities between me and you is, it's kind of crazy because obviously we haven't had a lot of interactions, but I think we are like so alike in terms of things that we are trying to overcome mentally, and just where we want to go about things in life, at least like from a highest version source of thing.
hmm Yes, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this with you. Like I said, the last conversation we had too was amazing. And, I think you have such a amazing like ability in terms of like your reciprocity in conversation and the kinds of questions that you ask and, the things that you share from your life. And so every time like it's only been twice, but each time it's been such a good experience. And, I just feel like honored that you allowed me to have a space to share a little bit about my story. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So I want to go into questions from the audience. So this is a fun one. This one is, because I brought up that you used to be an ASMR celebrity. This person
Yeah.
asks, what's your favorite type of ASMR?
So my favorite type of ASMR are role plays. So,
Hmm,
I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like you,
not familiar at all.
a genre of ASMR, kind of like a section of, there's all different kinds of ways you can do ASMR, but I really love role plays. So, like,
Mm,
it could be anything. Like, that's what I love about ASMR. You could be so creative with it. So, a role play, an example would be like, oh, the ASMR artist is on the video and it might be like, you're coming to the sleep clinic. And so they, are role playing this video with you, like you're there because you can't sleep. And so they're going to do like all these kind of like ASMR things to help you sleep.
mhm.
That's like an example of a role play. Or some people will like role play like getting your makeup done, or role play like
Gotcha.
getting a head massage, like stuff like that. Yeah, that's like my favorite type of ASMR.
There's so much to ASMR that I don't know. And you know what's crazy is that one of Michelle's family friends, her daughter loves ASMR, and her name's also Sophia, which is
Really?
crazy. So,
Yes. Yeah, there's
and I didn't think
a
about that
lot.
until like now. I was like, oh wow,
It's the connection.
yes. And what's the question that you had?
It was just one question. So somebody uh asked, "How did you overcome depression?" Because I think you put
Mm,
on the post on Instagram like overcame clinical depression and mental challenges. So
yes.
so my answer to that would actually be that I don't think it's for me, I would say depression isn't necessarily something that you overcome. It's
Hmm.
something that you learn to manage. So I still struggle with depression at times, but I think the difference now, especially after going to therapy and getting a lot of more like tools in my toolbox of like how to
Hmm.
manage it when it does happen. Like, now I'm better at like recognizing the signs when I am starting to become depressed. I can anticipate times that it might be more likely to happen. So when I go through big transitions in life, when my life is lacking routine, and knowing that like I need to ask for help, whether that's like
Mm,
talking to like my friend or setting up a therapy session and or saying no to things that I need to say no to so that I can spend a little more time to give myself the care that I need. So it's just
hmm.
things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say I overcame depression. I think that it's something you get better at learning how to manage when it does happen. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I agree. It's something that doesn't go away. It's something that we continuously deal with on whenever it comes up. It's a very like ad hoc way of like trying to deal with things. Like it's not something that necessarily happens every day, but it can come up in certain spurts. So
for sure.
yeah, I think that was a great thing to bring up. Um,
Yeah.
so Sophia, I know in our first episode we did song association, but I have a surprise for you.
What is the surprise?
So I am sending you the surprise through text message. And basically, what I did was that I asked your husband, my cousin,
Oh
to
my
write
God,
a
what?
letter to you. And
Really?
some
Oh
I
my God.
did. For some context, the reason why I did this is because it's something of my new segment
This is
where
gonna make me
I feel like
cry.
in life, maybe
Oh
I feel like everyone has cried that I've done this to so far.
my God.
But
Okay.
basically, the whole point of this is I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't know how much we impact the people that are around us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a way to kind of remind us of, you know, how much of a positive impact that we do have in life.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Yeah.
can, if you did receive the document, read the letter out loud
Already
for
tearing
everyone.
up. Because this is like my love language, okay, Randy?
There
Like,
you go.
it's so funny because, like, whenever like special occasions happen with Paul, like the bare minimum, I
Uh-huh.
always tell him, like, write me a letter. Like, I want you to write me a card,
Ah,
because I love like written letters. Oh my God.
wow, he's so
So I'm
familiar with
like,
this then. So
so I'm super excited. So, do I read it out loud or?
yes, yes,
Oh my
yes.
God. Okay. So he said, hey, Sophia, my wife, best friend, and partner in everything that we do. I'm truly proud of all the things that you have accomplished thus far and look forward to everything that you will accomplish in our future. It has been 10 years since we have first met, and the both of us have grown so much during that time. One of the biggest things that I love about you is your determination and perseverance to achieve the things that you set your mind to. You dreamed of attending school at Soka International in Japan. I think he meant Soka University, but that's okay. And to study at the school that your mentor in life, President Keita, had started. During that time, you struggled in the beginning, but you persevered, creating lifelong relationships and experiences, and even got to meet your mentor in life. I'm so proud of you for seeking what you wanted and obtaining it. Fast forward to Portland, Oregon, where you were able to land a job at Reed College. You are highly regarded by the nurse practitioners and you've worked hard with and sorry, you are highly regarded by the nurse practitioners that you worked with and where you created protocols and procedures for handling one of the biggest pandemics in our lifetime for the college. Thank you for making that transition to Portland with me. It truly was a time in our lives where we got to live carefree and where we truly explored and learned about the things that we love to do. I'm so grateful that you took a chance with me, the job, and made this move. You also encouraged me to seek a mentor after finishing residency, which has been invaluable to the both of us. When we moved to California, you were determined to find something else in your career journey through recruiting, and although it led you back to a familiar career with nursing, I'm proud of you for sticking with it and even finishing a master's in public health. You've accomplished so much during your time here, and I know that you will get the full time faculty position. He's talking about my current job right now. When the time is right, your team loves you, and you have the best boss. You have truly manifested a job that ticked off all the boxes you wanted with your career pathway, and that has been very inspirational to me. Your desire to move to Sacramento, although initially at my reluctance, has been a blessing. We've created a new community here and have a great support group. We are so close to our favorite spot, Lake Tahoe, and we even have our little Tayo, who's our dog. You have you've been a great dog mom to him, and I know that you will be a great mom to our future babies when the time comes. You truly mean the world to me, and I can't wait to do more life with you. You have taught me so much in this life, from emotional intelligence to better understanding what happiness truly means. Going back to our first discussions, it isn't about getting rid of your desires, but embracing your desires. The end goal is not what matters the most, but the journey, and I'm excited to see how our journey unfolds. I love you, Sophia, your husband, Paul. Oh my God, this is so sweet. I
He's
love
good.
that you did
Got
this.
got me teary up.
I'm like,
Got
oh
me
my
teary up.
God. Seriously, this is so sweet. Oh my God. It's so cool that you did this. Thank you.
Of course, of
Made me
course.
cry.
The least I can do for you coming on to the podcast. Yeah, I just wanted to get your reflections just on that sweet letter that Paul wrote for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think, I really appreciate that you did this because I think, like you said, like I think a lot of us don't realize the impact that we're having. You might not really always know it because, there could be people that you inspire that you don't even know, and or a person that you have an impact on that you don't even realize you had an impact on because a lot of times either people don't share it or, it's just something they keep to themselves or you're just kind of go, 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 and you don't really know if what you're doing is making a difference or not. So it's always nice to take time to like hear the reflections from others of like, how our journey together has impacted them. And yeah, I'm like so grateful for Paul too because, he's introduced me to his amazing family, people like you. So it's like
Yeah.
just, it makes me so grateful that like him and I met and that, we've got to come together and like created such a, I feel like I'm as much as he shared about like how I impacted him, like he has had like such a positive impact in my life too. Like I used to always tell him this thing because I met Paul during that time that I was stepping down from my leadership role. So he came into my life during a
Mm.
very tumultuous time. And so
Yeah.
I felt like I always say that my life was black and white before I met you. And then when I met you, it felt like you brought color to my life because, he introduced me to so many things. Like he helped bring me out of my shell to like encourage me to explore things for myself and like learn what I want to do. And he's always been like a huge supporter of like me doing that. And yeah, so I am grateful to him.
But yeah, Sophia, let's get into the final three questions. I call these the big three questions. These are three questions that can leave the final message that you have for our viewers. And the first question I have for you is, what would you tell young Sophia? Like that could be advice, sitting down with her. Like, what is the things that you would tell her?
Really, the biggest thing that I can think of is that what I think the overall, I've learned a lot of things throughout like this up and down journey, but um, you're okay just as you are. It sounds really simple, but I think for me, I was always like questioning myself and like struggled a lot with like doubting whether I was doing the right thing or, just really had a difficult time just being comfortable just as I was, even with all of my imperfections. So I think the biggest thing that I would share to my younger self is, you're okay just as you are. You don't need to impress anyone or be something that you're not. Like who you are in this moment is enough. So,
That's beautiful. I like that. My second question to you
yeah.
is, what does becoming the highest version of yourself mean to you, and how are you doing that today?
So, like I think I shared this with you before, and it's still pretty similar. So, one of the things that being the highest version of myself means to me, and it's a quote actually from a psychologist that I really love. Her name's Dr. Tama Bryant. But she said something along the lines of like, success is utilizing your gifts to the point of fulfillment. And for me, I feel like being the highest version of myself is like striving for that. And I am still trying to figure out how to do that. Talking offline, like I've mentioned like some ideas to you, but I feel like, I have more to give to the world. I want to like be in a space where I can express myself more creatively and like being the highest of doing that every day. I think for me right now looks like, really creating like being intentional about creating space to check in with myself so that I am really in tune with like how to be my most authentic self in the world. And I feel like, that's something that's worth taking time for and fighting for and really trying to figure out like what I want that to be for myself. So that is what I'm striving for right now in terms of like trying to be the highest version of myself. So, yeah.
Lovely. And I am more than happy to find a way or basically to help you get there, to help you become the highest version of yourself.
Yes. Thank you.
And my last question to you is, if you could connect me to someone to come on this podcast, who would it be and why?
Yes. So I have several people. I can think and it's still like same people that I mentioned to you last time. I'll just mention them now. Can I mention multiple people or do you just want me to say one?
You can mention multiple people.
Okay. So first one is my friend Kiko. She's starting her own company called Inyon is the name of it, but it's really cool because she's also very passionate about like the mental health space and like health and wellness and things like that. And essentially the Inyon is she's in the process of creating an app right now. It's a journaling app that uses AI to give you insight about your own reflections. So it takes your reflections from the journaling and provides insights to you about like things that, you were struggling with at a certain point in time. And it doesn't like replace therapy, but it's a nice kind of, a lot of people don't have access to therapy, right? And a huge part of the work is like really gaining more insight about yourself and doing like the work on yourself. And so she's creating this journaling app to help people do that. So that's really cool. She would be an amazing person to talk to, and she's just a lovely person and individual and has an amazing story. And then my other person that I can think of is his name is Josh. He is one of my best friends, and he recently had like one of his stories published in a book. Actually, it's like highlighting queer
Wow.
stories, and he's just an amazing person because he talks a lot. He had a suicide attempt a long time ago, like back when he was in college, I think, and it's just really amazing how he took such a painful event in his life and made it something that, has really helped him to be the person that he is today. And now, like every day, every year on the anniversary of his suicide attempt, he has like a celebration of life thing that he does. So, yeah, he has an amazing story. So, yeah. And then I have one last person, my other friend, her name's Janisha, and she's still doing, right, she was a pharmacist. I'll keep this quick, but she was a pharmacist and she left her traditional job to pursue her dream of traveling around the world. And so she's been on her around the world trip for the past like 15 months or so. So, yeah, I don't know what she's going to do after, but she's got a lot of really cool stuff to share too. So, yeah,
That's
those are the
super
three people I
awesome.
got.
That's super awesome. And hopefully that we can, like, again, make it happen.
Yes. I would love to connect you with them.
Yes. Again, Sophia, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed, again, my surprise. And, thank you for talking about your story. And again, it's an inspiring one that everybody needs to hear to help them in their life, whatever they're going through. And yeah, just overall, like, I think the general message is to do things that's what's best for you and do things for yourself. And it's okay to let people down,
Yes.
here and there. And at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you and not what's right for everyone else.
Exactly. Thank you. This was so much fun. I'm so happy we got to do this. Take two.
Take two, yes. And
Thank
hopefully we're
you.
good there. All right, guys. Well,
Yes.
if any of this podcast resonated with you, clip it, please. Please share it. Please tag me and Sophia in it. And please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you know when an episode comes out, you know when that's coming out. And as always, let's fall in love with the process of getting better every day and becoming the highest version of ourselves. Love y'all.